Hi, everybody. Welcome to Coach's Playbook with Paul LaPolice, your home for elite CFL breakdown and analysis. Today, pattern match coverage. We're going to break down the difference. What pattern match is, it's a coverage where you don't cover grass, you cover routes as they develop, and you pick up people as you see the routes develop. So we're going to open the playbook on match coverage. First of all, subscribe to the page when you get the opportunity and turn notifications on. That alerts you as we post new stuff. You don't want to miss anything, and subscribing to the page helps us. So what is pattern match? There's two different types of coverage. In zone coverage, you basically spot drop zone coverage. You run to a space on the field and you spread all the defensive backs out and all the linebackers, and you watch the quarterback's eyes, and then you kind of drift to where he throws the football. With the width of the fields, with the offenses being so very good at understanding how to create space in those zones, teams have come up with, for years now, called pattern match. And the teams in the U.S. call quarters at times where they're using pattern match principles. NFL, major college, CFL for years. What the difference is, pattern match means you read the routes based on what happens from the number 2 receiver, the number 3 receiver. Number 3 goes out, somebody's probably coming in. I'm going to hunt up the in-breaking route, and I'm going to latch onto him and take him man-to-man. So you're not covering ground. You end up reading the routes and then covering people. So you're always trying to get an overload one side. You're always trying to have help on the deep routes. And you're making sure that you just don't cover space because the field's too wide in the Canadian Football League. So we'll break that down and educate you what that looks like. Match coverage. Most important thing is you don't know how the coverage is going to look. It's based on the routes that the offense runs. But here are the fundamentals of match coverage. First of all, most of the teams are going to play man-to-man when the tailback's in the backfield. Some teams don't, but a majority do. It just makes it simpler. Otherwise, he has to become another inside waller. If they go to empty, where he's out of the backfield, they will probably then include him into this count scheme. But a lot of teams you'll see are man-to-man. That's the first thing you see for match coverage in the CFL or pattern reading in the CFL. You have inside wallers. And I'll get into what that means, but these players, because the tailback is man-to-man, they've got to pick up anybody breaking into the middle of the field themselves and take them over man-to-man, and you also have another inside waller to the field. So the easiest thing is just to drop routes and talk you through them and explain what happens when teams run these routes. So the first one is a simple CFL route that a lot of teams run. Is a corner route. It's a smash read or a high-low corner read where you run a corner route and 2 unders. So if we read what's happening, get rid of these signals, the Sam linebacker, the strong side linebacker of the field, as he reads 3 to 2, all right, 3 is the third receiver there, he sees 2 come underneath at 6 yards and comes running to the middle of the field. He will pick him up and then chase him into the middle of the field. So he picks him up. As he disappears, he covers him up. The field halfback, he's reading what happens because he knows 2 had to disappear. As 2 disappeared and the Sam had to take him, if 1 goes under, he has to pick him up and take him man-to-man. So now those 2 people are taken off the board. We have 1 route left. The free safety, he reads 3 to 2. All right, he sees 2 go under. He knows, I just got to be inside of this player, and all I have to do is I can be over the top of this route. I just have to stay over the top so there's nothing breaking back. And the corner is reading the same, sees both those guys go under. Now they've got what they want, a 2-on-1 on the deepest route. And the corner, the free safety, I should say, has help on, he can be inside in case they do some deep double move. So that's a good scenario, right? Got it all covered. Good example to show you. So now that's with in-breaking routes. I'm going to show you what outbreaking routes look like. Get back to here, back to our spots. Now this time you're going to have number 3 is going to break to the flat. He's going to go deep. He's going to run a dig. All right, just follow your rules, follow your reads. All right, the Sam linebacker. Start with the inside waller. He sees nobody. He sees three go out. Normally, when three goes out, somebody's coming in. So he's going to start sinking, looking and trying to find the inside breaking route. It could be the number 2 receiver. And then he would try to latch onto it. If he sees number 2 going vertical the whole time, he probably thinks a dig's coming. He tries to get underneath the dig. That's the first inside player. The field halfback. He sees, as he's sinking and he sees 3 go to the flat, he ends up taking 3. The free safety sees 3 go to the flat. He hunts up 2. 2 goes, number 2 receiver, the W. He goes vertical. I'm going to stay inside him. The corner sees his player number 1 going vertical. He stays vertical the whole time. When the dig goes away, he is now outside of the vertical and they're inside. They've got the deepest route handled in case anything goes that way or that way. So they're covered on the deep routes. Some teams may drive these routes a little bit faster or have some different rules when it declares to go ahead and take that and give the free safety. But that's generally, once the ball's thrown, these guys can now drive on it, and he's in the throwing lane on what you would call a go and an in. That's how match would look to that in some way, shape, or form. Some teams might handle as the routes declare a little bit differently. Let me give you another one. So this is a predominant CFL route. So let's play it out again. Sam, he sees nobody coming inside. He sees 3 go to the flat. I think somebody's going to come in. Here comes a 12-yard dig. So he's going to expand and then try to get underneath this dig. So he gets under the dig. The free safety, he knows there's no threat from 3, but he's hunting up 2 and 1. He sees, okay, there's a vertical. I'm just going to keep going vertical and get depth. The corner sees his man, the outside player, get vertical, so these 2 people stay deep. So now you have somebody over the top to help out on, make sure that they have that squeezed. What do I mean squeezed? If it breaks out to the corner, he's already there. He's got outside leverage. He's got inside leverage. So you're forcing the quarterback to throw somewhere else. But look, the Sam's underneath the dig, and this field halfback saw 3 go to the flat. He picked him up. So technically, you have help on the deep routes, and hopefully people got underneath the 2 underneath routes. So that's what you're trying to do. Then the quarterback holds the ball, then the pass rush gets there. So there's a couple examples to the field. Let's go to the boundary and just draw up a couple of simple concepts and see how it's handled. To the boundary, you just have 1 less receiver. So let's do the dig combination we did already. All right, so the Will, he's the inside waller. He's reading 2. 2's going vertical, so now he doesn't have to take him on an inside breaking route. 1's going vertical. He's going to continue to sink as long as he can, staying inside of 2 until he sees somebody break off on an underneath route. In this picture, he may stay underneath it the whole time and try to get in the dig lane. The boundary halfback, he's going to stay high the whole time because 2 goes vertical the whole time. He's got to stay inside of 2. The corner, he's got 1 is going vertical all the way up to 10, 12 yards. So once at 15, actually, he stays and he's over the top. Now you have somebody out in case that route broke out to the sideline or broke inside. That's what they're trying to do. Have that handled. Some teams will be more aggressive with these players as deep players. But now you have the Will underneath it, and they've got the dig handled. All right. That's one scenario. Nice, easy scenario we already did that happened to the field is the corner route and the underneath route. Go back to our normal spots. Okay, so the Will, he sees one come underneath and he runs. All right, I'm going to pick him up. He picks him up man to man and follows him once he shows up at his area. So he's handled. You can't throw to him. As he runs in, Will picks him up, takes him man to man. The corner sees one go under, he finds two. And then what does he do? He stays outside of two. The boundary halfback stays inside of two. So now they handled if that turns into a post or if it turns into a corner route because they don't know what the route is at about this point. So now they have help inside and outside, and whatever route comes, they should handle it. So you don't have anybody open deep, and you shouldn't have anybody open underneath. One more picture to show you what probably the weakness is of this coverage is it really just turns into man-to-man on the outside. So let's do this. Put him on a seam and put him on a curl at 14 yards. So if you follow your rules, this halfback's going to see two go vertical. He's going to stay inside it and vertical. Corner sees two and one going vertical. I'm going to stay over the top of all this. The Will is going to be gaining depth, gaining depth, gaining depth, gaining depth. He's going to stay inside of this in case it breaks in. And then eventually this turns into a one-on-one. So the quarterback should be able to throw it on the outside here because this route is never going to declare in time for the Will to expand. So how could that show up easier for a Will linebacker is this. Anytime this player runs 6 yards. So what'll happen, you'll get the exact same picture, but the Will sees, he's climbing, he's reading 2 to 1. He sees one run a hitch. He's going to run out to get underneath it. These two are going to, like I said, be outside and inside this route and whatever it declares. So that's it. The only other thing would be if this happened, you would just add this player. If they have 3 people over there, it would be just like the field. You would just add him and he becomes an inside waller and everything else is the same. So you have 2 inside wallers if all of a sudden the tailback went to empty. All right, let's take a look at some video of that. First clip. So I'm going to pause it right here to give you this direction. 4 over 3 to the field. You have 2 underneath, 2 high players. You're trying to outnumber you. To the boundary, they have 3 over 2. So that's the first categorize. Like if I see that, I know it could be matched. The next thing, do they have 2 inside wallers? At least 2 inside wallers based on what's happening. Yes, if somebody picks up people coming inside man-to-man, I'm going to think this is a match. And the last thing that confirms it for me, are they man-to-man on the tailback? Those 3 things, that's usually some form of pattern reading match coverage. All right, let me just show you one thing over to the top of the screen. If you watch, Lucky Whitehead outside released and he's coming under. Well, what happens is the underneath player picked that one up. He walled it. And you have a player inside and outside the corner route. So that's why you're doing it. That's what you're doing in a match situation. And let me move on to another clip. Calgary. Calgary runs their match a little bit different. We'll start with the inside into the boundary. So they're both players 1 and 2. That's the number 1 receiver, number 2. They're both going deep. If 1 and 2 go deep, they're going to go deep. The 2 half and corner. The corner and half are going to stay deep. The Will is going to be no threat inside, so he's going to just keep undercutting and going, waiting to see if he runs a dig or if he runs a curl. And he's going to try to get underneath the route of number 2. So in this picture, what happens is he stays inside. He stays here. Here's a one-on-one. That's what the quarterback has to see and recognize and throw it outside. Go to the field. So this receiver sees number 3 disappear, the DB. So he's now just going to continue to sink, right? As he sees that player getting depth, now he continues to sink. You have a player inside it. You have a player underneath it. You have a one-on-one on the outside. And there's one change here. Why did this player, who's a wall player, Why did he let that go? Because Calgary passes off. So Calgary full pattern read. So if the back released, he would take him, and now the middle linebacker is going to pick him up and be the inside waller. Some teams will basically match that up, and that allows the Sam linebacker to get underneath. Another example of Calgary. Drew a little picture here. 4 over 3, 4 over 3. How did you get that way? Because I've added the back into this. Linebacker added to match. He's the new inside waller because the tailback released weak. So some teams like to use the tailback in their scheme. So then if you follow this, the inside waller, nobody comes in as he's expanding out. If he sees an underneath route, he's going to go to it, which he does. The deep player is now going to drive this dig. He's going to be driving the hook. And that's how it played out. A couple more pictures of this. This would be versus Ottawa a few years ago. So let's start to the boundary. All right, start with the middle linebacker. Watch, he follows the tailback, picks him up man-to-man. Watch the boundary will linebacker. An inside breaking route goes. He makes a mistake here. He should have gone with him. I think he's trying to switch with the middle linebacker. He should have kept him. If you watch, he's wide open. If they throw that, that's a huge play. All right, go to the outside. These two players, what do they see? They see two go inside. Now he's on one, just watching what's happening. Okay, he can kind of hunt to see if anybody's coming across the field because he sees this player not threatening him in that zone. To the field. Watch what happens. The Sam linebacker, he's inside looking to wall. Anything? There it is. He sees the first underneath route. He goes and gets underneath it. The free safety's over the top. He's going to be now over the top if that route breaks off or it goes to the middle of the field. This player will expand. This player is over the top in case it's a corner route. So again, to the field, they're all reading 3. As 3 goes out into the flat, I got to go take 3. As 3 goes out to the flat, that tells this player to get underneath and then expand when a route shows up. Tells the corner to get in the deep third. And you got help. Good. Next clip. One more of these, maybe one or two. Let's see what we have on this one. First of all, watch the middle linebacker. He's man-to-man. He's following the back. Watch the will linebacker. Once again, the will linebacker, we talked about this, a corner route and an under. Watch the will linebacker. He picks up the under route and runs with it because he's the first waller. And then watch what happens here. You have a guy outside in case it's a corner route. You have a guy inside in case it's a post. So they've got this whole area of the field is covered. There's nobody open. Now go to the field. See how they handled it here. Another bunch look. So number 3, the inside waller doesn't see anybody underneath. So he just keeps climbing. And then now once he sees an underneath route, he's going to now turn and try to get that one. The safety's over the top of it. Now the corner is here because there's nobody out in his area. As he got depth, he now can play outside of any outside breaking route. And we saw the low player right here. We saw this low halfback on the hash sitting on the underneath route. So he attached to him. He's attaching to him. He's attaching to him. And he's bonus to help on any outside breaking route. And you notice they basically do pick them up man-to-man as that plays out. So a couple examples of match coverage, how it turns into man-to-man at some points. And again, you don't know where the double teams are until you see those routes. Really good stuff. Love match coverage. It's good when you can rush 4 and get to the quarterback.